Good morning, Christ Church. Please feel free to stand and worship with us this morning. We're going to get our blood moving a little bit.
This speak. I don't need an explanation. If you tell me move, I don't need the destination. If what's promised I never see, I'm still walking with you. You're still walking with me. I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us through. If I know one thing, our God is a deliverer. If I know one thing, our God is gonna see us Never alone in the battle. He'll see us through. Never alone in the desert. He'll see us through. Never alone in the fire. He'll see us through. He'll see us through. He'll see us through. Never alone in the water. He'll see us through. Never alone in depression. He'll see us through. Never alone in addiction. He'll see us through. He'll see us through. He'll see us
thought there was more coming. Hey, we're so glad that you're here today. My name is Allison. You can have a seat. And we're so glad to have you a part of our community today, whether you're here for the first time or you've been coming for months. Man, we're so glad to have you here with us. If you're watching online, we want to say welcome to you too, wherever you may be watching from. Maybe you're on vacation, or maybe you're in your house or in your car, or wherever you are. We're so glad to have you a part of our community today. If you're here for the first time, we want to say an extra special welcome to you. We hope that you had a great experience this morning when you came in, and we hope that you stopped at one of our first-time guest tents. Whichever doorway you came through, there's a tent at both locations just to welcome you and maybe show you around and give you some really quick next steps. So if you did not stop at one of those, we would still love the opportunity to connect with you. It's really simple. You should have been handed a program when you came in today. There's a little QR code on there that if you scan with the camera on your phone, it'll take you straight to our online connection card. That if you'll just fill that out, it'll give us a little bit of information about you, allow our team to follow up with you and give you some information on how you can take some steps to get connected here at Christ Church, and we would love to do that. So if you're new, give us that opportunity. If you're watching online, same for you. There's a link that leads you to an online connection card. Fill that out. Let us know you're here, and we would be glad to give you some next steps. If you're here in the room, though, and you are ready to take a step towards connection. Now, this is whether you're new or whether you've been coming for a while and you're just ready to be connected to the church. We care about you. We care about who you are. We care about your story. We care about knowing your name and learning where you came from. And you're not just a person sitting in a seat or a head that we count. You're a person with a family and a story, and we want to know about it. And so we would love just to invite you towards connection. So we do something every week after both services called 10 After. And all we would do is invite you to join us for it. Immediately following the service, head out of these doors, hang a right to our room called Connection Point. And in that room is a group of amazing people ready just to meet you, to say good morning and to give you a next step towards connection, to start that process of learning your name, learning who you are, and here's how you can plug in and be a part of our community. So if that's you today, do us that favor, swing by Connection Point, fill out the online connection card, take a step towards connection, and we would love that opportunity just to kind of walk you through that. So we are a church that is on a very specific mission, okay? If you haven't heard it, then you must not be listening, or maybe you're new, but we are on a mission to reach the disconnected and the unfulfilled and help them find a full life in Jesus. So you might be asking this morning, well, how do you do that? And I'm so glad that you asked, because I'm about to tell you. We do it by trying to get people on our property, okay? Because we believe that if we can get people on our property, then they're going to interact with something that might just seem different. That if we can get them in here and they hear something that might cause them to go, man, there's something different about that place. Because here's what we generally know is that people who are broken, people who are lonely, people who are sad, people who are lost in depression, they're generally not going to accept your invitation to just come sit with you at church. That's a big ask. So they're generally not going to respond to that. So how do we then reach these disconnected and unfulfilled people? Well, it's easy. We try to get them on our property. And so one of my jobs around here is to manage our calendar for the building. And it's a tall order, because we do all kinds of stuff within these walls that have absolutely nothing to do with our church. We have no affiliation with any of these groups. We just, when asked, man, we need a place to meet, and we have the ability to say yes, we try to say yes as often as possible. Because here's what happens. They come into our room, and they see things on the wall that say, man, we're going to reach the disconnected and unfulfilled and have them find a full life in Jesus. They'll see things on our wall that said we're for Jesus and for each other and for Camden. We hope that when they come on our property, they're going to feel something different. Maybe they bump into our staff, or they bump into volunteers who are serving. Maybe they see how nice of a facility we have. And we love being able to say yes to that. So I want to just run you through just this last month, all of the things that have taken place inside this building. And that's not even to count. We've had over 20 small groups meeting in here. We've had Chaos Has Rush in here. We've had several Forward Initiative events in here, like all kinds of stuff. These are things that are not about us, okay? So this past week, we had the Domestic Violence Task Force for Camden County, had a prayer vigil in here. The Camden County Sheriff's Office had their active shooter training here last week, and our security guys got to be a part of it and be in on it. They're running around our building pretending to shoot people. It was great. That was happening here. We had a chief pitting ceremony last week, which we love saying yes to. We love our military people and getting to be a part of big days like that. This coming up week, we'll have 80 drug and bomb dogs from all over the state of Georgia coming here to do their training. So don't come by on that day. Just note to self, but it's gonna be packed, and we're so excited to have that many guys there. We're gonna make coffee and serve them donuts, and it sounds a little like on the nose, but we're gonna do it, and it's gonna be great, because we want them to come in here and feel and experience something different. We had a local political party that needed a meeting space, and we were able to slide in and go, yeah, you can meet here. We have no affiliation with them, and if the other side asks, we're gonna say yes to them too, but don't come on the same day, but we're gonna let them in and say yes. We have a Spanish church that meets here in our building twice a week. They're going to be over there. I think they start at like 1 o'clock. They start meeting over there. It's a full Spanish-speaking church that we have no affiliation with. They come in again on Thursdays and have a full Spanish-speaking Bible study. no affiliation with our church. We just get to say yes, like come in here and meet. You need a spot? We have it for you. And we get to say things like that because when we believe that if we can get people here and in this building and around our people and around things that point to Jesus, then man, maybe they might take a step and accept an invitation into church. And so you're going to hear about it today, but we're wrapping up our Forward Initiative series today where we're kind of casting vision for a new building and a new space to do more of that. Because you might be asking, why would you build a soccer field? And why would you build a pickleball court? And why would you build living room sets for foster care? It's because we want to do the same thing. We want teenagers over there playing soccer and introduce them to a Savior because they see things on a wall. We want adults to be over there playing pickleball and see things on the wall that point to something bigger than themselves. And we hope that by getting them into those fields and those courts and those living rooms and interacting with us as we discuss foster care, and then maybe they'll accept an invitation to come in here. And then maybe they'll meet their Savior. And maybe it will change everything for them. And we have reached the disconnected and the unfulfilled life and introduced them to a Savior who loves them. That's the goal. That's why we do what we do. That's why we're moving forward as a church. So you're going to hear more about it from John today. And we're so excited to move forward as a church. We're going. We want you to come with us. It's going to be amazing. And this last week, we gathered with some of our leaders of our church who said, you know what, I want to lead the way when it comes to generosity. When it comes to moving forward as a church, I want to lead the way. And so we gathered in here last Sunday. We packed this room out. We sang some songs together. We brought our offerings forward and made our pledges. And then we went outside and had fun just kind of as a family. Enjoyed being together and celebrating like all God has done in this place and what he's going to do in the future. I wish that I could like explain to you what it was like to be filled in a room. Our staff filled in these rows and we actually got to just sit and worship and be present. And it was just great to see the people who said, you know what, I'm going to lead the way when it comes to generosity. And every week we make the same invitation to you. Like, come be a part of this with us. It's not a guilt trip. It's not to go, we just want your money. It's an invitation to be a part of what God is doing here and the mission that our church is on. So the same is true today. The same invitation is there for you to join in and partner with us when it comes to generosity. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. The easiest way is through the Church Center app or through our website. But if you're here in the room and you want to participate, there's some ushers that will be in the back of the room on your way out today. They'll be glad to accept your offering. But however you give, know that we appreciate it and that you're a part of what God is doing at this place. So I would love to show you just real quick. Shelby, a member of our team, put together a cool video to show you what last Sunday looked like, just gathering together and leading the way when it comes to generosity. So check this out.
I am excited that we get to impact other people's lives.
Excited about moving forward with what we're doing for Camden County and the church, and all in the name of Jesus.
My name is Christy,
My name is Emily.
and I am so excited for the Forward Initiative because it means that my kids and Emma and Davey and Abby get to develop relationships and friendships with people that they can rely on and that they can depend on for years to come. We've made some of the very best friendships here at this church, and I'm so excited to see what God has for our kids and for Camden County just in general.
I really like chaos because like I can meet friends, and just a minute ago I was actually talking with some of my friends, and I had only met them at chaos. We were homeschooled, so I've never met her, and she's a really great person who had not gone to chaos. And we were laughing, we were having fun, and they're just really, really cool people.
So we're excited.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and my husband and I just contributed to the Forward Initiative today. And what this means to me is I am showing my faith in God because I lost my job in August, and I currently have zero income. But I have more than enough faith that God is going to provide and God is going to take care of me, and I'm more than happy to commit to this initiative.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you can give it up for that. So, hey, Good, very good. Hey, well, good morning, everybody. My name is John. I'm one of the pastors, and welcome if you're in the room. And special shout out to those of you who are joining us online today. That was just kind of a cool event for the week. Got us off to a really good start in terms of forward and what we're going to complete this morning. Just a room full of people who said, hey, I'd like to go early and make a commitment, which is the thing I'm going to ask y'all, whether you're in the room or whether you're watching online today, to actually join in and do as well. So today is both an end and it's a beginning. So it's the end of our 6-week series as far as teaching, but it's really the beginning of what we're going to do in terms of a vision and mission initiative going forward. So I'm excited about that. You might remember, if you were with us in week number 1, where I laid out kind of the objectives and the goals for forward and our collective generosity that we're going to try to generate together. I said, when I laid all that out, I said, you're probably going to have one of two responses now that I've laid all that out. And one response is going to be, okay, well, that's probably not going to happen. And I said, well, okay, not with that attitude, it's not going to happen. And I'll just kind of give you an update on some of that here in a second. But the other response would be, okay, well, that's probably not going to be a problem, will it? Because someone will probably just kind of step forward in a really big way. And so let me give you an update. So far, no one has actually come forward with the entire $4 million, just in case you were wondering. But that means we're going to go forward with the rest of it today, okay? After Sunday night's advanced commitments, we are a little over 1/3 of the way towards the goal that I laid out for us. So, yeah. So I will let you decide if that's response 1 or if that's actually response number 2. But I've been saying every single week, listen, the goal, the primary goal is 100% participation. That all of us would actually do something. And the something that I've actually kind of laid out for us as a challenge to do is just to figure out where you are right now, and could I take the next step forward by faith and trust in God that He will actually allow me to do that. And so the result then would be that the next 2 years would actually be the greatest 2 years of generosity that we've ever experienced as a church, that would allow us to take some really bold next steps in our vision and our mission. So when we began this 6 weeks ago, I said, hey, you're going to need to listen to this story of Joshua that we've been working through, essentially as if you're listening through 2 earbuds or AirPods or headphones, if that's your reference. On the one side, you're going to have to listen collectively as a church, and then on the other side, you're going to need to listen personally for you as an individual. And so on this side, you need to be listening and experiencing it as if how's God really want us as a church to move forward and to take some huge steps of faith as He leads us? Okay, that's collectively. And then on the other side to go, okay, is there something else that God has for me specifically? And what is it going to take for me to take those next steps forward to actually see that become a reality? So that's really what we've been talking about here, is what does it take to actually move from where we are to maybe where God has called us, or to move from who we are, okay, to who God wants us to be. Or as I will say it for us today, what does it look like to go ahead and put my yes on the table? And I love that we've chosen this story of Joshua to work through together and to be immersed in the last 6 weeks. Real fast, Joshua, leader of the Hebrew people, okay, the Israelite nation, and he follows a great leader named Moses. And it's Joshua's job to take this group of people who are really just newly formed into a nation and to move them into a land and to move them into a future that God has been promising to them for years. Now, it takes several years for that to actually take place, and we're going to read from Joshua chapter 23, which many people will say could have taken 20 or as many as 40 years to get to this point in the story, but we're down the road, we reach the end. In chapter 23, the people have all settled into the land. We're figuring out our new place. We've got our homes there. It's near the end of Joshua's life, and here's the way it reads in chapter 23, verse 1. A long time after the Lord had given Israel rest from all the enemies around them. Joshua was old, he was advanced in age. So Joshua summoned all of Israel, including elders, leaders, judges, and officers, and he said to them, I'm old, I'm advanced in age, and you have seen for yourselves. And I just stopped there for a second because I underlined that in my Bible. If you have a hard copy, it might be worth circling or highlighting. If you've got a digital scripture, it might be figuring out a way to make a note there. You have seen for yourselves everything the Lord your God did to all these nations on your account, because it was the Lord your God who was fighting for you. Jump down a few lines to verse 14. He continues, I am now going the way of the whole earth. And if you're unclear on that, he's about to die. He knows it. I'm going the way of the whole earth. And you know with all your heart, with all your soul, that none of the good promises the Lord your God made to you has failed. Here's another great phrase. Everything was fulfilled for you. Not one promise has failed. And you might remember all the way back to the very first week in the beginning in Joshua chapter 1 that God made 3 promises to Joshua. He said, number 1, everywhere you step, it's yours. All this land, it's been earmarked for you. That's the promise. Just take it. Number 2, you can take it because no one can stand in your way. And promise number 3, the reason that's going to happen, God said, is because I'm going to be with you every single step of the way. And those 3 promises that God gives to Joshua are what allow him to have the courage to step into what God has asked of him. I love those 2 phrases. You saw it for yourselves, and he's fulfilled every promise. Now, what Joshua does here in his speech is to now take people on a quick tour of history. He's going to start looking back over the last several years, and I'm not going to read it for you. Let me just hit the highlights for you. He's actually going to go way back to the beginning before their ancestors even knew God, and then he's going to say Abraham came along, and God tapped him on the shoulder and said, Abraham, you're going to be the guy who's going to be the father of this enormous nation. And Abraham took some enormous steps of faith and trust as God led him to do that. And then he goes, oh, don't forget about Moses, right? He's the guy who delivered our entire nation from slavery. And then he mentions the Red Sea. Moses got us across the Red Sea. Like God divided the water and everybody walked across it and we moved into freedom. Then he goes to real recent history and he mentions the Jordan River. Hey, don't forget about that, right? We were on this side of the river and there was no easy way across, and God split it right down the middle and we all walked across dry to the other side. We went from here over to there. Don't forget about that. He said, don't forget about Jericho. Remember that one? Right? There were walls and it was fortified and they were well trained, and we marched around in a circle and blew some trumpets and shouted, and it fell down because God brought those walls down. He mentions Jericho, and he kind of keeps moving through different parts in their history. And then he does this really important thing where he said, hey, just look around you. Right? All of those promises of God were amazing, but just look around you right now, like you're living in the land he promised to you. And it's this checklist of things, right, that people would have a memory of as if to say, yeah, that was really amazing, wasn't it? I mean, God really has come through for us, hasn't he? And with all that history fresh on their mind, Joshua makes his final appeal, chapter 24, verse 14. He's still got the mic. And here he says, therefore, because of everything I just told you, fear the Lord and worship him in sincerity and truth. Get rid of the gods your ancestors worshipped beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt. Hey, long ago, get rid of that. And worship the Lord. Verse 15, but if it doesn't please you to worship the Lord, choose for yourselves today. And I just want to stop there for a second because it's Joshua going, hey, I just gave you a whole list of reasons to trust God. But if that's not enough for you, choose another God and serve it with everything that you have. And he continues, choose who you're going to worship, the gods of the ancestors, right, beyond the Euphrates, the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living, but choose one, and that's your decision. And I think I just want to stop here for a minute in some kind of self-reflection for us and ask ourselves some of the same questions, because the answer to this question is what really leads us forward into the remainder of what Joshua has to say. And it's a very simple question. Hey, just stop for a second and think about it. Who or what do you really worship? I mean, who or what are you really serving in your life? And a question that I really think kind of shifts the focus and goes, oh, I see what you mean, is to ask, who or what are you going to trust in your life to take care of you? And that's probably your God, right? Because we're all going to serve something or someone. We are all counting on something or someone. We're all putting our hope into something or someone. And it's a personal decision, and there are hundreds of possibilities, aren't there? I mean, just think about some of the things that people worship and serve today. I mean, some of us are trusting in money and possessions. That's the God, right? That's the most important thing in our life. Like, that is the ultimate good for us, that we're trusting it to actually take care of us. For some of us, it might be an appearance, or it might be an image, right? It truly is a God that we serve. It could be identity, it could be accomplishments, it could be power, it could be success, that we put all of our weight behind it as the ultimate thing that we are counting on to tell us who we are and how we matter. Right? It might be gods we serve of kids and family and relationships, and the list goes on and on. There's gods of politics and gods of sports, and there's nothing wrong with most of these things until they become the thing, if you know what I mean. Right? The primary form of security and value, that at all costs we must have it and actually protect it, and then we elevate that thing that might be a good thing, we elevate it to the ultimate thing. And Joshua, in the final moments of his leadership and even his life, is challenging them and you, me, all of us, to choose the God that you want to worship. But here's the thing he says that I'm going to do. And you see it in verse 15. He says, "As for me and my family, we will worship the Lord." Could we maybe just read that out loud really strong in one voice? All right, even if you don't want to, if you don't do it, then we're all doing it and you'll feel left out. So could we just kind of do that together? Verse 15, starting there with "as for me and my family, we will worship the Lord." Excellent. When Joshua looks back over the last few years, right, when he looks back over his entire life and reviews history, he can't help but to make this declaration, right? That regardless of what anyone else does, I'm committed to follow God no matter what. And then he adds this, "and so is my family." I mean, that's a message for another day, but as long as you're the leader of your household, guess what you get to decide? Who your household worships. And we'll just set that right there. That's kind of like the salad before we get to the main course. Let's just get that one out of the way so we can concentrate on important stuff. But Joshua makes this decision where he puts his cards on the table, essentially pushes all of his chips to the middle, and he says, look, when I look back over my life and I see the power of God and the promises he has kept, of course I choose to trust him going forward. And here's where I'm trying to learn, and what I just kind of want to offer to you today is a really important truth from this story for this week is this, that the decision to trust God going forward is based on what we have seen God do when we look backward. And I really want that to settle in for you for the next couple of minutes, right? That the decision to trust God going forward is based on what we have seen God do when we look backward. See, when you look back over your life, right, is the thing that you're currently serving or trusting worth continuing to serve and to trust? And one of the ways that you might be able to figure this out is simply by asking maybe a little bit different kind of a question, which is, what has the thing, right, or the person or the feeling actually done for you in your life? Because you could look back and go, okay, well, actually, I feel like I'm better off. Well, then keep going for it. But if you were to look back and go, okay, actually, I'm really not better off, I'm actually worse off. See, this happened for a lot of us, right? We had a moment, we had a realization in our life where we looked back and we go, okay, I don't want more of the same. It's not actually getting me where I want it to go. It's not actually producing a better person in me. And we go, you know what, I need to do something different and I want something better. And it was the decision for us by looking back to go, okay, going forward, maybe and you looked into church, or you said, I think it's God, or it's faith. What I hope that will be true for you in this moment is that you and I will take a step closer to, or maybe just go all in with the thing that Joshua is saying, is that when I pause and when I reflect and I look back on my life, for me, I have seen enough to know that I'm going to worship the Lord. Okay, I'm going to serve the Lord. I'm going to trust the Lord. I'm going to put my hope in the Lord. Now, some of us have decades of material to draw from, and others of us have only a few days. But I'm going to ask you to kind of draw on it for a few minutes, right? And I want to give you 3 things that I think that reflecting and remembering will do for you. And then I want to ask us a question, okay? Here's number 1. Remembering what God has done inspires gratitude. Okay, it inspires gratitude. That when I actually take the time to look back decades, right? Maybe a year, a week, even a day. I think there's value in that. It produces some gratitude, right? There should be some celebration and some thankfulness in me when I look back. Now, in 32 days, and some of you are like, oh boy, that's really coming fast. In 32 days, okay, you're going to be sitting around a table, hopefully with some family and some friends, eating a enormous turkey and all the stuff, okay? You're gonna have all the foods there. And the very nature of that day should actually cause us to go, okay, the entire country is giving thanks. Maybe I should just pause for a second and find something to be grateful for. Like the very nature of the day should actually give you some gratitude. And maybe you'll have a prayer time around a table. Maybe you'll do an exercise on your own or with your family or a group where you just look back and go, okay, this time last year, Thanksgiving, what was happening in my life? And maybe it's just as simple as you're watching football and you give thanks for the fact that you're not a Detroit Lions fan. It might be really, really simple for you, okay? But you can find something in there. Listen, this is why we begin all of our staff meetings here at the church with a time, and it might take a few minutes, it might take 30 minutes, where we just stop and we go, okay, hey, tell me some really good stories of how you've heard God working in the last week. Who are some people that you really feel like have taken some next steps in their faith? And we'll share the stories, and we'll just be able to pause for a second and go, wow, isn't God so good? Let's just celebrate that and be thankful for what God is actually doing. I mean, specific to generosity, some of you made a decision in the past that you're like, you know what, I'm going to step out in faith and actually be generous, and it was a big step for you, and you can look back now, maybe a month, maybe a year, maybe a decade, and you can see how God has actually come through and provided for you. See, part of what Joshua does when he looks back is to say, man, how awesome is it that God has always taken care of us? Here's a second thing. Remembering what God has done increases confidence. Okay? It increases my confidence in God. It increases my confidence in God's provision. Because without looking back in our life to see how God has provided for us in the past, it's easy to forget, isn't it? Because I bet most of us, I bet all of us could scrounge up something where we have a time in the past where you had to trust God for something, right? You just had to. And how is he going to come through for you? And it may have been financially, or it had something to do with your kids or your marriage, right? Or a health crisis. And there was a time when you put your faith in believing what God could do, and he came through, didn't he? And we sing a song around here, you know, quite often that says, do it again. Okay, that'll be familiar to a lot of you, right? Hey, I've seen you move the mountains. I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way, right, where there's no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. There's actually some other lines in there as well that say, great is your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, right? This is my confidence. You've never failed. See, looking back on all that God has done gives me the confidence, okay, to look forward by faith to all that God can do. And that's number 3, right? Remembering what God has done builds hope. So let me just give you a little tip about something I'm working on, and I'm pretty new into this, okay? So I have a lot more work to do on it. But if you were to spend more time celebrating the past and actually thanking God for what he has done up to this point in your life, and you were to watch less or read less news, you will absolutely, positively, 100% have more faith and trust and hope in God. Can I tell you, I've just been trying it for a little while, and I don't have it all figured out yet, but as I'm decreasing the voices that are speaking to me in my life, do you know what's happening? I feel more hopeful. I feel more hopeful. And so maybe that's a little tip for y'all that you never considered before. But because Joshua has history, he can look back onto the moments and the days, and he can see how he knew God as the promise maker, and all these years later, he's going, okay, the promise maker has become the promise keeper. And that builds hope for what's to come. Okay, when you look back there, wherever there is for you, you are either going to see something that resembles despair, and you're going to go, you know what, I don't want that anymore, or I would like to get out of that, or you're going to see something that actually provides hope and builds confidence. But when you see, what you see back there, by the way, is what gives you hope for what you can expect up there. See, this is really what I've been challenging us as a church for the better part of the last year. Like, if you were to go back and go, like, what is the main message that I have tried to communicate this year? You might come up with a whole list of things, but let me tell you what the correct answer is: to trust God. Just trust God. And trusting in God means saying yes to God. Before I know what's coming or how it's going to work out, you should trust God, right? Based on what you already know to be true. Based on what I have seen God do back there gives me the hope for what I can expect from God up there. And what we're doing today as a church is committing to go forward with hopeful confidence because of how God has provided for us in the past. So here's the question I'll throw out to you today, which is this: can you put your yes on the table before you know what God is asking? Can you go ahead and say yes to God before you know what he's asking or where he is leading or what he's going to do? See, you did this before in your life, right? You got married. That's what you did. You put your yes on the table before you knew how this person really was. And you said, you know what? I am committing to you. And now we're going to figure it out. You guys who enlisted, right? You're in the Navy, you're in the Marines. This is what you did. You're like, you know what? This sounds like a great idea. I have no idea what I'm doing, but sign me up for the rest of my life. And you're like, you said yes to the U.S. military. See, you did this. Some of you, when you stepped out of a tank like that one, or people who have actually stepped out of a pond like that one or out of the ocean after they were baptized, you said yes to God because you thought something different and better could happen in the future. You didn't know what that looked like. That was hopeful confidence. So what would it take for you to say yes to God before knowing how he was going to act or provide? See, this is what Joshua does here. He goes on record publicly, which he did last week as well when he prayed this crazy prayer. Now he's making a ridiculous statement. He's laying his yes on the table that no matter what, he's going to trust God going forward. And I'm asking us all to do the same thing today, to lay the yes on the table, or more specifically, okay, to write our next steps in terms of generosity and faith and trust on a card and actually put that card in these boxes. And because those of you who are watching online don't want to be left out, there is a drop down for you to be able to access the digital card right there. Now, I really need you to listen to these next 2 or 3 minutes, okay? Like, if you haven't been paying attention, I need you to give me 3 minutes here, or you're going to miss it. And I don't want you to miss it, or you'll waste your time writing me an email. And all this could be avoided just by locking in for 3 minutes, okay? In no way am I actually saying that if you do not go forward in terms of a generosity commitment to this initiative that we've laid out, okay, that you are not serving God. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, that's not true. These are not the same thing. You can still worship God, and you can serve God, and you can follow God and not make a commitment to what we're talking about, okay? As long as we're clear on that. But I'm not done. I will add that it will be difficult for you to go forward with God if you don't participate as it relates to this church, okay? Because this is not an idea or a concept or initiative, or I would say a God dream that just goes away next week. Okay, it's going to continue to come up, and it's going to be in front of us, meaning that if you choose to do nothing, okay, that's a choice, but still attend and go, that's my church, things will be different. Celebrating baptism won't mean quite as much to you. Or when we bring people out on the stage and we say, these are the mission partners of our church, and we're commissioning them to go take the mission to the people of Camden County, like, it might not hit so deeply. or when we burn the mortgage on this property or do a ribbon cutting on that building we're talking about building for Camden, it's not going to feel quite as communal and celebratory for you. One more thing. If you literally cannot do anything today, right, or make a commitment at this point, but you are sold out on the mission and the vision of our church, there's absolutely no guilt here, okay? Find other ways to give. Your time, right? Your talents, those kinds of things. And then when the day comes that God actually blesses you financially, jump in with generosity. Okay, good? Here we go. I love how Joshua lays his cards on the table, right? This is my personal decision. He doesn't stand there and take a poll. He doesn't ask for a show of hands and say, who's with me? He goes, no, this is what I'm going to do. Even if I'm the only one. Okay, because of what I have seen and I have heard and what I have experienced, I have to go with God. As for me, okay, that's me, I'm going to continue going forward with the Lord who has brought me to this point. So, I want you to take out this card that's in the back of the seat in front of you. And if you already know, okay, we're not doing that, it's an all play. Could you just pull it out and hold it and no one will know what you're about to do, okay? Just take it out and hold it there for a second. And I want you to consider the power of a public decision, okay? So a while back, I came across this story of a restaurant owner by the name of Gordon Sinclair, and he owns a very fancy high-end restaurant in Chicago. And he was talking about how he realized one day that 1/3 of all of the people who call and make a reservation at the restaurant never actually showed up for their reservation. And in the end, it was costing them $900,000 of lost revenue. Now, he had trained his employees that when someone calls in and makes a reservation to actually say, hey, please call if you have to change or cancel your reservation. But it wasn't working, okay? So he changed and added 2 words to the message that he had his employees say to people when they called, okay? The 2 words were, will you? Just by adding those 2 words and turning it into a question, he said, saved them so much money, $500,000, just by getting people to actually call back and cancel the reservation. So, will you? And here it is. Will you please call if you have to change or cancel your reservation? And then he said, wait for an answer. Ask the question and then wait for an answer. He said waiting for the answer was key. And every single person said yes. Yes, we will call back. And by doing so, they had made a public commitment. The commitment now, by the way, influences behavior later. So, when it comes to everything that I've laid out for us these last 6 weeks, as for me, okay, and my wife, Chris, we are going forward. Okay, will you? And that's the question, will you? As a reminder, okay, Forward is a 2-year vision and mission initiative with 3 goals. Let me hit them real fast. 1, to create margin. And I want to tell you this because I'm pretty excited about this. Because of your faithful generosity just these last couple of months, that we are able to already start putting an additional 25% each month towards our existing debt. Before Forward, before Forward even begins, okay? That's pretty cool, that's a big win. We're talking about 2 years of our normal operating budget, right? All the ministries that we currently have that give us the ability to expand and offer more. And then Forward accelerates our mission, okay, making it possible for us to build a facility that truly is for Camden and the people of our community. Allison mentioned that for you a while ago. Listen, it is a building that's really a bridge for people to go from there into a building like this one into a relationship with Jesus. Now, I believe, along with our pastors, along with our staff, along with our elders, that this is the next step forward for Christ Church. So, I want to make sure you understand what you're holding or supposed to be holding in your hand, okay? This little bit on the far right here tears off, okay? That's for you. You can keep it. You can hang it on a fridge somewhere. You can stick it in a pocket. You can put it in the back of the seat. Please don't put it in the back of the seat, but you could do that, okay? This on the end is just a simple little worksheet for you to go, I wonder what I could do. And you would simply look at the first box and go, okay, what am I currently doing? That you should know that. That would be simple. The second box is just a step of faith. Okay, is there an increase that God is leading us towards or asking us to take? You would put that in there. We're talking about 2 years, okay? So we're multiplying by 2. And then you'll see a box there that really talks about stored resources, okay? So I know somebody who says, hey, I have 4 of this thing right here, and I don't need 4. So I'm going to sell one, and whatever I make, I'm going to give that, okay? So that's like a stored resource. They're making a guess on what that's going to be. Some of you have like a savings account and you don't know what it's for. It's a stored resource or something like that. You would put that in there, add it all up, again, multiply by 2. That's how you get the 2-year total, okay? So some of you, like you're going to do this for the very first time. Okay, you've never taken a step like this one before, and it's an amazing step of faith. It's amazing, okay? Some of us are going to do an increase, and it feels like a really big moment, right? We've been comfortable. We kind of know the lay of the land where we've been, and we've adjusted. Some of you are going to take a step that you never dreamed of or you thought was possible, and you're going to look at it and you go, I don't know why I'm doing this, but here we go. We're going to do this thing right here. Some of you who are here Sunday night, God's been stirring in you the last 6 days, and you're like, I think he wants us to do more. As long as it's more, fill out another card and turn it in today. I'm just kidding. I'm just make sure you're all with me here, okay? Whatever it is that God's leading you to do, just take the step and do it boldly, okay? Now, what we're doing is we're giving up something more than likely that matters to us for something that matters more. Okay, so what we're doing here, it matters. It matters for the future. It matters for other people. It matters for you. So whatever that number is at the bottom, that's the one you're putting here on this card right here in the middle, okay? This is the one I want you to hand in. And there's some envelopes in the chair if you'd rather stick it in an envelope there. And we're going to bring it up here and put it in this box in a minute. But let me just tell you how that's going to work. That number, by the way, represents what you think God is leading you towards as an act of faith, again, over 2 years. You're not giving anything today, okay? We'll talk about that in the future. Another 5 weeks or so, we'll do a day called the Big Give where we bring our best and kind of get this thing moving. But today, I'm just asking you for the card. And I believe that many of us today, okay, are taking a step of faith here. I believe that you're going to see God move in your life in ways that you never even thought were possible before today. And maybe you're anxious. I would be concerned if you weren't anxious about it, okay? Maybe you're scared, maybe you're unsure, and I think that's okay. Okay, because I think this is the space in which God shows up and does his part. Your part, by the way, is faith, okay? God's part is to provide. So you're making your best guess, okay, your intentions. So here's how it's going to work, okay? We're going to give you 3 minutes to just have some time where you are to think about it. If you were unsure when you came in or you and a spouse disagree, work that out as soon as you can. In the next couple of minutes, maybe say a prayer over your card if that's what you want to do. Check your work, and then we're going to respond with a song, okay? There's going to be a break in the song, okay? And when you see me and my wife, Chris, get up and come to this box, then it's an all play, okay? Then you can be free to go and do that if you want to, okay? So the decision to trust God going forward is based on what we've seen God do when we look backward. Okay? And as for me, he's been so good, he's been so faithful, he's been so trustworthy. So God, this morning we pray over all this stuff. God, I pray for those of us who are just struggling right now. We're trying to decide how we should respond and what we should do and how you might be leading us. God, I pray for a real moment of clarity right now, some breakthrough that, God, you just give us some confidence on how you're leading and guiding us. And God, I pray that we would step boldly into this moment, believing that you're going to do your part and believing, God, that somewhere on the other side of this, we're going to see so many people have a changed life, come to know you, to be influenced by what we're doing right now. So God, I just pray over all these things right now that are happening in the room and in living rooms and on phones and people who are not here with us right now but are trying to decide how you're leading us. God, I just pray right now that you fill us up with courage, allow us to boldly step in faith. And we're going to trust you for all these things in the end. We believe that you're good. We pray through Jesus. Amen.
There's a time to sow and a time to reap. Would you do it again? Do it again. There's a time to heal and a time to mend. Would you do it again? Do it again. You said, consecrate yourselves to me. Oh, you will see amazing things. We need your revival, Holy Spirit fire, burning ever brighter in our souls. Kings and kingdoms falling, hear your people calling. King of kings, we need a miracle. We need your revival, Holy Spirit fire, burning ever brighter in our souls. Kings and kingdoms falling, hear your people calling. King of kings, we need a miracle. King is among us, His glory surrounds us, His fire is falling as we sing. The Savior is for us, His love is victorious, revival is rising in His name. The King is among us, His glory surrounds us, His fire is falling as we I believe. As I bow before you, Lord, I will rise in confidence. I will see your goodness, Lord, in the land I'm living in. No matter where I go, no matter where I've been, I will see your goodness, Lord, in the land I'm living in. Sing it to the daughters, sing it to the sons of every generation. Look at what the Lord has done. Sing it to the darkness, that the light has come. Sing it to the nations. Look at what the Lord has done. Sing it to the daughters, sing it to the sons, to every generation. Look at what the Lord has done. Sing it to the darkness, that the light has come. Sing it to the nations. Look at what the Lord has done. Look at what the Lord has done. As I bow before you, Lord, I will rise in confidence. I will see your goodness, Lord, in the land I'm living in. No matter where I go, no matter where I've been, I will see your goodness, Lord, in the land I'm living in. As I bow before you, Lord, I will rise in confidence. I will see your goodness, Lord, in the land I'm living in. No matter where I go, no matter where I've been, I will see your goodness, Lord, in the land I'm living in.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so glad you all got to be in here today, or if you joined us online, thanks for being a part of the service today. Hey, I think maybe a year or two, maybe even 10 years down the road, when you do a moment of reflection, this might be one of the things you look back on and see how God provided for you. And it will build your confidence in Him from that point going forward. So awesome. Glad you guys were here. Hey, real fast, if you're in the room and you want someone to pray with you, there's always someone in the back corner back there who would love to do that with you. If you're our guest, I know it feels like you kind of walked in on a family meeting today, but that's okay. We'd love to know who you are. If you just head out those doors down the hallway to the right, down in that room called place called 10 After. And there's some awesome people down there who would love to maybe learn more about you and answer any questions you have. So again, glad you guys were here today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week.